do our refuge prayer. Then I don't know if you guys know it by heart or not, but I'll share my screen. Whoops, so you can see it. Okay. So let's let's remember why we're here. Our motivation. So let's make it as pure a motivation as we can. And if you remember the three pots, our minds. One of minds can be like a pot that's already full, a pot that's upside down, and a pot that has a hole in the bottom, right? So that it's always good to remember that before we go to some kind of class or something. And then go for refuge. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Dharma, Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all living beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sometimes it's good, well, it's always good when we're doing the refuge prayer to imagine that all the Buddhas, of the 3 times and 10 directions are, arrayed around us, up, down, all around us. And so we're taking refuge into all the Buddhas. And of course, the other important thing also is, sometimes it's, you can have Shakyamuni Buddha in the middle, that's kind of nice to have one focal point, but they say it's important to best if we can see our guru in Shakyamuni Buddha's heart, so because that brings to mind that the guru and the Buddha are one, right? The guru is inseparable from the Buddhas. So, and we'll talk about that today. That's the bit that we'll talk about today is why we can see the guru, why it is appropriate to see the guru as the Buddha, and how, the reasons why that is so, So anyway, so that's what we'll do. That's what the topic today. But maybe we can start with a meditation. So we can take a comfortable posture. And if we remember the 7-point Vairocana posture. So we begin by concentrating on the breath. Or if you find that, your mind is too scattered, we can do the 9-round breathing, kind of help pacify it, and then concentrate on the breath. The other approach they suggest is a body scan. So that's also something that's quite useful sometimes if nothing else works, to start with the foot and just, go up to the crown of the head and just focusing on the different areas of the body that might need release or relaxation. So when the mind is sufficiently calm, we can just briefly consider, how the fortunes that we have, how fortunate we are, with a human body that we still have, especially now. And if you can remember all the leisures and fortunes, it's a good way to motivate ourselves. So they say that the scriptures say and the gurus say that there are various points to think about when we're contemplating on how to use the teachings. So the first point is that we have an illness. We are like a sick person. And sometimes, we might think, well, I can't even tell that I don't see that I'm sick. But that's the thing that makes it most dangerous, is that we don't even know we are sick. From all the delusions, from endless births, and all the karmic obscurations, all the the obstacles that we have, and all the negative actions that we create constantly because of all those delusions. And we're in this constant cycle of creating negative habitual tendencies and negative actions from it, and on and on. So this is the greatest sickness we can have, at least if we're sick, physically sick, it's only in the body, and it'll be over at the end of this life. But the real sickness that we have, there is no escape, at least as our minds are today. So then the question becomes, how can we become better? Or how can we liberate ourselves from this sickness? And so the answer is with the Dharma, because the Buddha elucidated on the Dharma, because it is the medicine for our sickness. If we practice the instructions, like the Buddha said, we can cure our sickness just like any medicine we're given for sickness in the body. So we have to view all the Dharma instructions as our medicine for our sickness. And then to think of the guru, our spiritual teacher, as the skilled physician, because he's the one or she's the one who knows how to diagnose our sickness, who knows us best, knows exactly what, among all the different possible medicines, which things will work the best, given our mind stream or the kind of delusions that we have. Who has the training and the practice to know what the medicines are, because they've followed the instructions themselves. They know what works and what doesn't, so they can guide us like a skilled physician. And then finally, there's some other points, but the most important one is that if we practice the Dharma, if we are given the medicine for a sickness in the body, but we don't take it, then it doesn't matter how skilled the physician is, how potent the medicine is. Nothing, there would be no results, really. Similarly, when our teacher gives us instruction to cure our psychic illness, it's vital that we follow his instructions and follow it as best as we can with the most, effort, with joy, with enthusiasm, thinking that this is the cure for my illness that I've had for eons and eons. So that's one way to think about why a spiritual guide is so important. Much, much more important than a physician a doctor in this life. And much more kind than any doctor. So we should look at our teachers with great respect, with great love, gratitude, and wanting to serve them as best as we can with the most, joyous effort. Okay, so then we can come back to the present. Oh, my video disappeared. Interesting. Okay. So far, so the last two classes, we talked about the qualities of the teacher, right? What are the quality, the 10 qualities, so we can review it. So that, the qualities are, the teacher is, he's subdued, calm, pacified, or subdued rather, pacified, and very pacified, right? Or is it the other way around? Yeah. Subdued, pacified, and very pacified. So his mind is tamed by moral discipline, right? So that's subdued. Pacified through concentration, very pacified by understanding the wisdom of emptiness. Is more, is very knowledgeable in the scriptures, more knowledgeable than us, right? And then has a direct perception, have a direct realization of emptiness, right? At least the inferential understanding, right? And then, so those are the 6 qualities of the teacher. And then there's 4 qualities with which he guides his students. So he's compassionate, right? He's diligent. He's always willing to help if someone, one of his students needs help. He's patient because he has to continuously repeat same instructions over and over again because we are so hard-headed, I guess. And what's the last one? Which one am I missing? Oh, and eloquent, right? Because that's what they use the term. That he can communicate in very clearly, and everybody understands him, and he has the depth, can communicate clearly and with depth, right? So that was the qualities of the teacher, and then we talked about the qualities of the disciple. So the good disciple, as Pabongka Rinpoche says, impartial, right? Because they're not biased, prejudiced, one way or the other, in one view or the other. Intelligent, because they can discriminate right and wrong. Hardworking, has great respect for the guru, and listens carefully to the guru's instructions, right? So those are the qualities of the teacher and the disciple. So when that we looked at the last couple of classes, and then there were questions and answers and so forth and so on. So when we are doing our meditations, it's important to see how our teacher has those qualities, and and whether or not we satisfy the requirements for being a qualified disciple, right? Or a disciple, because that's how we make best progress on the path. So that's one thing to kind of do when we meditate, those two things, right? And if there are things that we can improve in our qualities, then we can think about how to do it, right? So then, and we stop there because the next topic is a very important one and a somewhat heavy, not heavy, but weighty one, and there's quite a bit of things to think about. So, and that's the how to see the guru as the Buddha, right? And the first question is, why do we even need to see the guru as the Buddha, right? And the reason is that it engenders a particular type of faith. Like if we are able to, and we'll talk about the reasons, et cetera, if we're able to contemplate on those, reflect on those reasons, and we can convince ourselves, we have this conviction that yes, a guru is it's appropriate to see the guru as a Buddha, that it engenders this type of faith, which makes the path just easier, because, well, first of all, the blessings from the gurus, they not permeate, but they enter us so much more. It makes our heart softer. It makes our heart open. We don't question the guru's instructions. We have faith that they are giving us the right instruction and they're taking us in the direction we want to go, and so forth and so on. So it makes things a lot easier and much fewer obstacles on the path, right? And and it says that kind of faith is a foundation of our practice, right? And part of the reason is the Mahayana, the Indian and Tibetan tradition is based on tantra, right? And in tantra, you have to see the guru as the Buddha, and so that's kind of, in the Theravadan tradition, they don't talk about the guru as the Buddha at all, right? I mean, they certainly talk about why the guru is, why we should have respect for him and so forth and so on and follow his instructions, but not at the level of, seeing the guru as the Buddha. And it says, no matter how powerful a guru's blessings are, the extent of the blessings that we actually receive from him depends on how we regard him, right? So it's not from the guru's side that the blessings come, right? It's really from our side, whether we're open to the blessings, right? And as there are lots of times when there might be, someone who doesn't see a valid Buddha. Like, for example, if someone doesn't see the Dalai Lama as necessarily, I'm sure that most people think he's a great being, but if it doesn't have the same level of, respect and love as you would have if you saw him as a Buddha, even if he was standing next to you and talking to you, still wouldn't gain the most out of it, right? So it's like that. And so that's so the blessing of the guru, great or small, depend upon oneself, not upon him. And there are many stories about the Buddha, for example, people at the time of the Buddha who didn't see him as his cousin Devadatta, for example, and so forth and so on. And so they didn't have very many they didn't create a lot of great merit, and sometimes they created demerits because of their actions towards the Buddha. But that's another different type of story. So then the real question, okay, so then the next thing is, why is it possible and how to regard the guru as the Buddha, right? So a lot of times, we don't see the guru as a Buddha because we see the faults in the guru, right? Superficial faults like when I first was, I had a hard time with Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because he coughed a lot. This was in the, the early 2000s. He doesn't cough so much anymore because after his stroke, he doesn't cough. He just shouts, because I think he has a sense of urgency, that he's always trying to impart to his students. So it comes out as like kind of shouting, But anyway, so but he used to cough a lot, and so it was very hard to understand. I remember being in a teaching with him, like that was the overriding thing that I would be in my mind, is that fault, right? And the thing to remember is, and it says here, is that it's the influence of our own karmic imprints that causes us to place such emphasis on the guru's faults, right? So there were people sitting next to me who had no trouble understanding him, because if it were something that were truly inherently a fault of his, then everybody would have the same problem, right? But it's really from my side that I see the fault, because that's what I concentrate on, right? And so base and so it's the same way. If we, and then over time, then I didn't see, that the coughing never bothered me, right? Because I gained respect from him, and I gained respect for him. I started seeing him as a Buddha, and when you do that, you don't see the faults anymore, right? Those faults are just not, he might still be coughing. It's just not something that I even think about, right? And similarly with other faults, maybe he picks his nose and whatever, that's one of the examples one of my teachers used, he picks his nose, or whatever it is, chews with his mouth open, I don't know, that kind of thing, right? So I'm not talking about deeper faults, whatever, deeper faults, like about his character and stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute, but at least superficial things, we can see, but we can remove them by just really knowing that it's really our karmic imprints that make us see it that way. And then the question is, how do we, why the guru should be seen as a Buddha, right? So one thing to note, the Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, in the scriptures, it says that, Vajradhara said that he would appear as, as gurus, right? And he would dwell among us by emanating himself in the form of a guru. Now, sometimes, we Westerners, we don't have the kind of faith, right? And we think, well, it just says somewhere, why, just because it says so, why is it true, right? So I think then we have to think about, if the Buddha says something, why is it necessarily true? I mean, one way, of course, is that we can persuade ourselves through logic and reason that it's true. But some things are hidden, and so those are not, as obvious, right, through reasoning. Like, for example, karma, karma is a very hidden phenomenon, but there are the hidden phenomena like reincarnation and things like that, which, which you can't necessarily prove through, logic. But I mean, you can't, but you won't convince everyone, right? And then there's another way to look at it is, if everything else the Buddha said seems to be true, seems to hold logically, right? Then why would he say this that is false, right? And, if everything else in our experience turns out the way he says, then why would this turn out to be false? And why would he go, say this, say a falsehood anyway? So that's one way that one can use the scriptures as a valid basis, for so when Vajradhara, for example, says that, it says in the scripture, Vajradhara said that I will appear as a guru, then the question is, why would the scriptures lie about that, right? I mean, so that's one way to think. I'm not saying necessarily that you have to, this is going to convince you. It didn't convince me, certainly, when I started. But it's a way to keep our minds open, right?
I have a question, Shankha.
Yeah.
The Theravada, is that how you pronounce it?
Theravada.
So they don't see the guru as the Buddha. So how did that diverge? And if they see it differently, is it possible that that's not an essential part of Buddhist teaching, because it was interpreted differently by this group than by the other group?
Right. Well, one thing to remember is that the two traditions came about because the Buddha taught, different in different ways, right, to different groups of students, depending on what their capacity was, right? So that's what it says in the scriptures about this. So the Mahayana, for example, came about because the Buddha, and then and then Manjushri and etc. So there's teachings that come from the Buddha Manjushri, Buddha, Buddha Tara, and so forth and so on, and those came about through the Mahayana tradition, right? And it's because and they may not be represented in the Pali Canon because that was what was written down at the time by the people who were, that's what the Buddha taught to them, right? So that's the understanding that that's what we're at, how it's explained, right? So for example, Nagarjuna, when Nagarjuna talked about all of these things in the 200s, right? So by then already, all of the Mahayana tradition was in full flourish, right? And so that's the explanation, right? It's not necessarily that one is correct versus not, right? It's the question. What they say is one. The Buddha gave 84,000. They say 84,000 teachings, different teachings, and for 84,000 types of minds, right? So this is, so the Theravada tradition works for certain people, the Mahayana tradition works for other people, right? And that's what the Buddha taught to different groups of people based on their capacities. Was that explained? Does that help?
Yeah, and also I think as a Westerner, we tend to be maybe a little more skeptical, or it's a little harder for me sometimes to accept certain things on faith. And this is a hard concept for me.
It
to
is.
See the teacher as the Buddha.
And we'll talk about it, right? And the real takeaway from all of this is you don't need to be convinced just because the readings in this class say so or whatever, right? I think what's most important is to keep an open mind, right? Don't throw it out of don't throw the baby with the bathwater, as they say. And then as you reflect on it with sincerity, right? And but still questioning, right? I mean, you still have to question, that's healthy skepticism is good in our tradition. So then you use that skepticism and you use it in your reflection and you see whether it works or not. If it turns out that it doesn't work for you, right? That you cannot, there is just no way you can accept the Guru as a Buddha. You have two choices. One is you continue, you just keep it aside. A lot of people, keep aside the whole reincarnation thing, for example, right? And just, they don't dwell on it. So you just put it aside and you say, maybe it'll change in the future, maybe it won't. And you just continue on the spiritual path. if it's been working for you, right? If you feel that your mind has been changing, right? And if your mind, if your mind is more pacified, you're calmer, your life is better, you have more compassion and so forth and so on, then you continue on that path, on the Mahayana path, and you don't necessarily dwell on whether the guru is a Buddha or not, right? You just follow the guru's instructions. The other thing it could be that is to become such a big deal that that you just can't separate it, right? I mean, it becomes a serious obstacle. In which case, you don't, they say you don't have to, if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to follow it, right? If your mind isn't being changed, because this is such an obstacle that your mind isn't being changed because of this issue, then maybe the Theravada tradition is better, if it helps, that's a better, path to follow, right? Or maybe some other spiritual tradition, right? So that's what His Holiness says, is that, I remember being in a teaching, it was a retreat with His Holiness, like 2 weeks. And someone asked, I think he was Jewish, or was he Catholic? I can't remember, either Catholic or Jewish. And he said, should I convert to Buddhism, right? And His Holiness said, well, you have been born in your faith for a reason, because that's what the karmic imprint, that's what was close, what is your mind was most, not attracted to, but most compatible with, let's put it that way, right? So you were born in that faith. You don't have to change that faith. You can use some of the instructions if it helps you, in the Buddhist instructions, that is, if it helps you. And you can just, use it along with your existing faith. You can still go to synagogue, you can still go to church. You just use some of the Buddhist instructions if it helps you. If it doesn't help you, that's okay, right? It was worth a shot, right? So like that. So I think it's, so just keep an open mind. I mean, I think that's one of the things to remember is for difficult topics like karma, like, reincarnation, like the guru devotion is probably one of the most difficult topics that most Westerners find. And, so you can just not worry about it and just keep an open mind and be open to it. And maybe it'll be not as hard, it won't be such a, the rock won't, will become softer over time.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay, so
I think Nancy had something.
Oh, yes, please.
Is a teacher also, if they're not the specific guru, we have different teachers teaching, do we stop and think of them as the Buddha as well as their teaching, as their
okay, when I say guru here or teacher, it's someone whom you have accepted, not someone you have accepted as a guru, right? So in other words, if I go to, I don't know, some teacher somewhere, right? I mean, there are lots of teachers, valid,
right,
valid teachers I'm talking about, right? Teaching. No, I wouldn't see him as my guru until he made an impact on me such that I could, he made such a change in me, right? And I felt this closeness to him, right? That I would do that then, right? And that's what His Holiness says: inspect your guru for 12 years before you take him as the guru, right? I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how many people do that, but so until then, he's not your guru, and you don't have to see him as a Buddha, right? This is only for teachers who you have such, devotion for that they are your guru. So does that answer? Yeah. You don't have in any random teaching. No, you don't have to see them as the Buddha. So, and the other, and we touched on this a little bit. Last time is, remember one of the vows, right, that the Bodhisattvas take and the Buddhas take, right, is to always be a benefit to others, right? I mean, that's our that's the refuge and bodhicitta prayer that we do every day, right? Is that may I be a benefit to all sentient beings. And the Buddhas, of course, become Buddhas because they have this, they spontaneously will help whoever needs help, right? So of course the Buddhas would appear as gurus because what else would they, right? I mean, obviously, right? As the person giving us the middle finger in the traffic, right? I mean, but of course, if they appear as ordinary people, ordinary beings, then why wouldn't they appear as the gurus, right? So that's one explanation. Another explanation which we already talked about is that our perceptions are unreliable, right? Just because in front of me, himself in front of me, and I may not recognize him at all, right? Because so and there are many stories about this. I don't, the one about, for example, one of the greatest Indian, Mahasiddhas, Naropa and his teacher Tilopa, right? And Naropa went in search of Tilopa. He had heard of him, and he went in for search of him. Somebody told, he's been looking everywhere in India for him. And somebody, oh yeah, he's over there in that riverbank, right? He's and so Tilopa was, this kind of like took the form of a fisherman, and he was catching fish on the side of the river and frying them live. And so Naropa like, oh, this, he can't possibly be, the guy who told me that, look on the side of the riverbank must be totally wrong, right? But then, of course, there's Tilopa then, showed him, performed some miracles and so forth and so on. And so, he showed that, that he would, that was a form he took, right? And there are many like this, like when, Milarepa, how am I forgetting Milarepa? Yeah, Milarepa, when he was, meditating, for 12 years and Manjushri didn't appear, and then was it Chenrezig? I think it's Manjushri. Manjushri didn't appear. He had been practicing for 12 years, and so he was giving up, and then he saw this bird, on the side. He came out of it. He said, "I give up," and he came out and of his hut, of his cave, and he and I can't remember it exactly now, but he saw this bird making a nest out of the rock, and it was was pecking at the rock, something like that, right? And he's like, well, if a bird can have such perseverance, then surely I can, for my practice, I can just, to get VCC and Manjushri, sure, I can, do more, make more effort, right? So he practiced for another 12 years, nothing happened. Then he practiced for another 12 years, and he finally just said, okay, that's it, And so he left his meditation cave, and he went down the mountain to the village, and he was walking through the market, and there was and there was a dog. They're right. There was a dead dog on the street, and there were maggots, on the dog, and so in his great compassion, Milarepa, he was saying, like, how can I get the maggots off the dog, because the dog is suffering, right? And if I pick it up with my fingers, and then the maggots are going to get killed, right? So then he said, okay, I'll use my tongue to pick up the maggots and then put them aside, right? So as he started to do that, the dog then changed into Manjushri. And so Milarepa's first reaction was, I spent 36 years and you appear now, right? Like. And so Manjushri said, well, I was actually, remember you kept spitting, like spitting your spitballs in the spittoon in your cave. Well, I was the spittoon, right? So that's a famous story. And then Manjushri, so then Milarepa is really happy to see Manjushri. He picks up the Manjushri up on his shoulder and he starts running through the market saying, hey, look, it's Manjushri. And of course, everybody's like, this is some crazy guy with this dead dog on top of his, top of his shoulder running through, and Milarepa looked crazy anyway. He was half naked and probably naked at that point. So because they didn't have, Manjushri was in front of them, because of their imperfections, mental imperfections, they couldn't see him, right, as a guru. The story says, I'll end it now. I know you've been thinking, okay, when is this going to end? So so now at the end, so there was one woman in the market who had enough merit. She had, through her practice, had enough merit to see the feet and the ankle of Manjushri. So she saw the dog and she saw Manjushri's feet and ankle, but she couldn't see the rest of Manjushri. But anyway, so that's how the story goes, right? And so that's a classic example of classic story used to talk about how the guru can appear, how the Buddha can appear, but we just, like Milarepa, Manjushri appeared to him, but he didn't see him. He hadn't cleared enough obstacles until he practiced a great compassion to, use his tongue to get rid of the maggots. That's when the final obstacle was broken, right? Overcome, rather. So because of our mental imperfections, we may not see the Buddha, even if he appears in front of us. So that's, and then it says, let alone our guru. Only person we can actually tell who he really is ourselves. By the way, am I cutting in and out?
Just did now, yes.
I think okay. Hang on for a minute. Okay, hang on for a minute to change network. Okay, it should be a lot better now. I was in the wrong network, so that's why. So anyway, so that's why the guru, the Buddhas can appear as as our gurus, right? These are the kind of logic, and you can read the Lamrim, of course. This is going to be there. And I know, Steve, you're getting the essential nectar, and that's all the stuff is in there too. But in Lamrim, there's all these, all these reasons are there because, we are to use this in our meditation and see whether or not it can be true or not, right? We can question these things in our meditation. We can kind of debate with ourselves, and we can see whether one of these reasons, all of these reasons, some of these reasons work or not. And so that's how to use this instruction. Okay, so the guru, so for example, the guru is the agent of all the Buddha's activities, right? So in other words, we don't have the karma to see a Buddha like Milarepa. We don't have the karma to see Manjushri or to see Chenrezig or or Tara and so forth and so on. So of course, how is it instruction going to be imparted to us? It'll be imparted to us through someone who is qualified, who's channeling essentially the Buddhas, right? I mean, Geshe-la or whoever is giving us instruction, valid instruction. I mean, this is all true for qualified. Once we have decided someone's a qualified teacher and we, qualified to be a guru. So then one can see that, would the Buddha appear, would the Buddha give us instruction as, as just an ordinary man on the street? He might, but not if, he's, instructions. I mean, the man on the street, the Buddha can appear as a man on the street to teach us a lesson. Yes, that's true. But the man on the street isn't going to appear to us to give us, like deep, profound instruction on emptiness and so forth and so on, right? A guru, a spiritual teacher is going to do that. We don't have the karma to get it from the Buddha himself. So of course the guru is the one who's going to give it to us. Because if we had the karma, then we wouldn't be here, and here we would be in a pure land, right? And seeing the Buddhas in their sambhogakaya, right? In their enjoyment bodies. So if the gurus are to appear to us, of course he has to appear as a human being. We're not going to take instruction from an animal, right? So if you accept that the guru, if you accept that the Buddhas, it's kind of like this is actually a logical reasoning. If you accept that the Buddhas took a vow to help all beings, then if we need help in our spiritual sickness, then of course the Buddhas will appear. And if the Buddhas do appear, how will they appear so that we actually believe the being who is giving us instruction? We're not going to take it from an animal. We're not going to take it from a hell being or whatever, an ant or a fish, right? It's going to have to be a human being. So the Buddha would appear to us as a human being, right? So that's why the human in front of us is an agent for the Buddha's activities. I mean, when we have reached our ultimate goal, then we can see the guru in his true Dharmakaya, and we will see that his and the Buddha's minds are the same, But until then, the Buddha can't appear to us in his Dharmakaya form, right? He will appear to us as in whatever form is most appropriate for us. So when we're an animal, he might appear as an animal or something like that, right? But to give us instruction. So one of the examples they use, I mean, this again for meditation, is the rich man and a poor man, famous example, which is that if you're a person, if you're a rich man and who wants to do business or wants to become richer, right? Would you go to a pauper for instruction? Like how, like the next stock tip? You wouldn't go to the guy who's whatever, I don't know. I don't want to denigrate anyone. So I'm just trying to find a good example. I was going to say a janitor, but that's not a very nice thing to say, right?
Wouldn't come to me, just put it that way.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Would we go to dancing? No. So like that, right? I mean, a rich man wouldn't go to a poor beggar, on how to become richer or make his business grow or whatever. He would go to somebody who's actually rich, who is, like maybe Donald Trump, you think, I'm told he's a billionaire. So, if I want to become a billionaire, I should get instructions from him. So anyway, so yeah, so that's why the Buddhas would the Buddhas was use the guru, the human guru, as an agent, right, to help us. So it says here, the Rinpoche concluded by repeating the reasons we must use to reflect on how our guru could not be anything but a Buddha. One, if our gurus were not themselves Buddhas, the Buddhas would not rely on them as suggested by the rich man, poor man, right? The Buddhas wouldn't use them as an agent. And secondly, the Buddhas must rely on our gurus in order for their blessings to take effect, because, otherwise we wouldn't relate to them, right? We have to relate to them to have faith in them and so forth and so on, that they're appropriate guides and so forth and so on. So the blessings of the Buddhas can only come through the guru. So, so then, we talked a little about this, is the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, even nowadays, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are acting on behalf of all sentient beings, right? So, so it says, from the first moment that they generated enlightenment mind, the Buddhas have concerned themselves exclusively with our well-being. All their efforts to accumulate merit while they were still bodhisattvas were carried out in order to perfect their ability to act on our behalf. And when they became Buddhas, they did so for the sake of sentient beings. Thus, it is impossible that now, after having achieved their goal, they would not act on our behalf. Indeed, nothing could be more heartless than if the Buddhas were to abandon us and stop acting on our behalf. Therefore, we can be certain that they are acting on our behalf. And so that's why no one except our gurus could qualify as the Buddha's emanations who carry out this activity. If you think about it, the bodhisattvas, they spend so many countless eons, to perfect their perfections of generosity and patience and joyous effort, all these things, and compassion and wisdom and so forth and so on. So they have to, they can't not work for the benefit of behalf of sentient beings, right? Once they become Buddhas. So yeah, so that's another reason why, the Buddhas, why it's appropriate to see the guru as the Buddha. And then finally, I don't know if it's finally or not, but another important point is that our perceptions are unreliable. Think about how often our perceptions are unreliable, right? Our perception are unreliable. My perception, I don't know about yours, is unreliable all the time, right? I think of, I think someone, let's say someone at work, right? I think that, he's got some ulterior motive, or he's, he only picks on me or whatever it is, right? And it turns out that his motivation was totally different, right? Or he didn't even know that he was picking on me, right? That was just my perception of what happened, right? I don't know if you've seen that Kurosawa, there's a famous Kurosawa movie. I can't remember. There's 7 villagers, I think. Oh yeah, they witnessed, right? So they witnessed a rape. And so I guess the local justice of the peace or whatever, it's been like 30 years since I saw this movie, so I'm trying to remember what justice of the peace or whatever is trying to figure out what happened, right? So he's asking these 6 people and the woman about what happened, right? And they all give totally different answers. And it's because from their vantage point, they saw different things because of their karmic imprints, right? So it's a really interesting movie. If you get a chance, I can dig it up if you're really interested. But anyway, it's really interesting. It's a really nice movie, as is most Kurosawa movies. But in any case, So like that, we just see what we want to see, and so because the guru in front of us appears with faults and so forth and so on, does not mean that he actually has faults. That's one way to think about it, right?
So Shankha,
Yes.
what is perplexing for me is our perceptions can be so off. So
On or off?
Off.
Off.
In other words,
yeah.
So we have a teacher who we like, we're getting something from the teacher, but it just seems so difficult to make a decision and say, okay, I'm going to take the dive. This person is my guru. Because again, we could be seeing something so totally off base.
That's right.
And yet, the whole issue of guru worship is such an integral part of this, but it seems like it's almost like you're putting the cart before the horse a little. Or at least for me, I'm just grappling with that. And I haven't been on this path that long. It's probably been about a year for me. But that's one of the things that I struggle with. I mean, I have an easier time with reincarnation and karma than I seem to with the concept of the guru.
And there are lots, and I've known people who've been in the Dharma, many years, 10 years, let's say, right? And they're still struggling with that exact question you mentioned with some guru or, some teacher and, whether or not to see them as a guru and why and so forth. So it's a very, it's a very valid, experience, right, to have. So the way I was always told is, what's the rush to see them as the guru, right? I mean, they're still teaching. You can still take the essence of their instructions and put them into practice without having to go, if you're not ready, and you shouldn't do this unless you're ready. And like the Dalai Lama said, unless you've really, really thought about this and you're very, very clear about it, right? It's not appropriate to take that person as the guru. And a qualified guru would tell you that. They would say, don't take me as your guru, because that's not correct, unless you are really clear about your understanding and your motivation and so forth and so on, right? Until then, you just follow their instruction if it's helpful. I mean, if it continues to be helpful over time, it will become clear, because over time you will have faith in that guru, in that teacher. And when you have faith in that teacher, as I mentioned earlier, the faults get smaller and smaller. And then the question just goes away by itself, in a way, So yes, there is a cart before the horse thing here, right? Because they say that, a guru is absolutely important, foundation for the entire path. But then you have to have a lot more experience in the path to take someone as a guru, right? So what the hell, how the hell are you going to make progress, right? Well, it's not like a sequential thing, right? It kind of goes in parallel, right? It's kind of like, you don't say, okay, I'm going to gain realization and wisdom before I work on compassion. Right? I mean, you do it both at the same time, right? Because you need like they said, there's the two wings of a bird, right? The bird has to fly, has to have both wings, and wisdom and compassion. You can't, you have to make progress, you have to have both of them to, continue. So similarly, you don't have to say, okay, I have to take somebody as a guru before I can do anything else, right? you can just follow their advice as long as it's beneficial and as long as they're qualified, as long as the advice concords with the teachings, of course, right? And as far as you can tell, they're a qualified teacher, right? You can look at the 10 qualities of a teacher, and you can kind of look at his or her qualities and see whether or not this, that person seems to have most of those qualities, and if that's true and the advice is correct, then you follow it if it's helpful, beneficial, right? If it's not beneficial, then you probably won't cultivate that relationship for that long anyway. So the question will not become a real issue. If it is beneficial, then as I said, you will generate more faith over time. And then also the question doesn't become an issue because the faults kind of become smaller and smaller, That's all I can say,
Thanks. So it's not recommended that because you have a teacher who you like and you're following early on, that you try to imagine that person as the Buddha and kind of force it.
If you find that that's helpful to you, you totally can. It's not that it's not recommended. It's not recommended it's not recommended that you take somebody as a teacher before you're ready, right? But if you have such faith already in someone that if you can see that person as a Buddha, then that's perfectly okay. In fact, as it says, I can read that again, as in the scriptures, is that's how, it's all from our own side, right?
Mm-hmm.
We make progress based on our, based on how soft our heart is. And this way to make the heart soft is to get the blessings of the Guru and the Buddhas. And the blessing of the Guru and the Buddhas come most when we can see them, the Guru, as a Buddha, because that brings us, so if we're already at the point where we can see it, you don't have to force it. Nobody's saying you should force it. But if you are at a point where you can see a teacher as it's possible to see the teacher as a Guru, you can have some inkling, okay, maybe it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfectly okay, right? In fact, it's beneficial because that makes faith in the teachings, more strong. You will follow the advice more faithfully. You'll be able to overcome obstacles to following that advice because you will make an extra effort, right? So there are all these different things that come, that's what they mean by blessings, right? All these things that come by being able to see the Guru as a Buddha. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I'm wondering if Nancy, if I'm going off on a tangent and this is something that maybe I, can talk about some other time.
No, it's good. It's good to hear all of this. And I think I understand what you're saying. If you have a teacher and you're learning, and so you keep going back because you're learning and you feel like that's helping. But then I guess my question is that your Guru, or can you see that as you're sitting in front of that teacher and maybe you haven't decided that this is my Guru, but you want the teachings, and can you see that teacher as the Buddha disseminating the information to you? Because now that's a qualified teacher, somebody who probably has had some realizations or whatever, but it hasn't been, you said you've been here a year, it hasn't been 10 years or however many years since you've examined everything about this teacher. So yeah, I think it's a good question. And I guess it does help to see that person as somebody who the Buddha is working through to that information, and obviously your karma with that teacher is allowing you to absorb that and utilize it in your life. So, it can just start sounding real woo-woo and out there, but I think it just bring it down to, hey, this person is teaching me things that they've experienced, that they've studied, that they've learned. And is it my guru? I don't know, but I'm sitting here and this is coming through the lineage of the Buddhas. So I guess that's how I kind of see it. But it takes time. It really does. And like Shankha said, you can't just say, wow, this seems too far out for me. I think there are a lot of things all of us have thought, I don't really get that. But you stay with the teachings and get what you can out of it, and you might end up on another path at some point. But right now you're here. And if you're getting what you need, then I think follow that teacher and maybe try to just understand that what they're teaching you is coming from the lineage of the Buddhas. Yeah. So no, I'm not. I'm right there with you. Everything you're asking is good. And whoever's listening whoever will listen will get something out of this as well. So
these are good questions.
Thank you. I appreciate both of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, ultimately the Buddhist teachings is ultimately to transform our minds, right? It's pure and simple. That's basically what it is. Everything the Buddha taught is how to make us more patient, kind, compassionate, generous, just that, right? And so if a teacher's advice is making you kind, compassionate, more patient, blah, 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 then, if it's helping, then there's nothing wrong in continuing to follow their advice. We don't, and we don't have to get hung up on whether or not they're a guru, whether or not they're a Buddha, whether or not whatever, right? Because we're still getting the benefit, right? But knowing that over time it will resolve itself. It always does. One way or the other. Either you will drift away from the teacher and the question won't arise anymore, or will you get closer with the teacher, in which case it'll become clear, But forcing it doesn't help, because that just brings more tightness in your heart. There's always these questions and, so there's this kind of like, one has to kind of let go a little bit of this whole, know what brings the most blessings and so forth and so on, but you don't have to it'll happen when you're ready. That's just how it is, and just be okay with that, and as as one of my teachers said, when I was kind of discouraged and I asked him for advice, and, he said, hey, Shankha, you see my mala, my rosary, right? He said, look, you see this one bead? And I said, yeah. He goes, you have lots of beads, your lives are like these beads. If you don't make progress in this life because of X, Y, and Z or Z, it's okay. We create the causes to have, again, if we keep moral, like if you read the Lam Rim about how, what gives us human rebirth, right? It's moral discipline. We will continue, we will have another human rebirth. And if we make the aspirations in this current life, may we be with our teacher in our next life, just like we do in our practices, right? Then it will happen, right? So I could just fall dead tomorrow, right? But my life has not been in vain, right? Just because, I have not accomplished what I was hoping to accomplish in this life. I will have other lives. As long as I've lived a good, decent life, I will have another chance, So, it actually did help at the time, and that's one way to look at it. We don't have to rush things because we will have time, we do have time. So yeah, so just if it's something that question you can't get past, then just put it aside for now, yeah. So anyway, so that's so so what were we discussing? Oh yes, that our perceptions are not reliable, right? So they're not reliable because because let's just like in Kurosawa's movie, we see what we see, right? So it's not what reality really is. So we can't tell whether the guru who appears to have faults is not actually a Buddha. And then also, just because you can't see him, the other logic they use, just because you can't see him as a Buddha doesn't mean that he's not a Buddha, right? Just because you can't prove reincarnation doesn't mean it doesn't exist, all right? Or in the 1800s, they thought that all radio waves, all electromagnetic waves, etc. For them to travel, there must be some kind of material for just like sound needs air, the material for it to travel through, right? There must be an ether. They concocted this whole material called an ether on which radio waves have to travel. Well, just because you can't see that there is no ether, like that radio waves just exist by themselves, doesn't mean they don't, right? I mean, it's the same kind of argument, right? And just like our eyes, they always use an example, like when you have jaundice, things appear yellow, right? Just because our eyes can be mistaken, same way our minds can be mistaken. Just because it appears to be yellow does not mean it's yellow. But the other interesting way it turns it on its head is the other interesting way to think about this is that seeing a fault in someone is okay. The other way to look at it is that we can't be sure that a teacher who's exhibiting faults is actually not pretending to have those faults to teach you a lesson, right? So it's not that the teacher actually even has faults. He or she might feign, right, faults for your benefit, right? And I'll give you an example. Well, okay, is that a good example? Okay, yeah, I'll give you it works kind of. So here's an example, right? So this is actually from my personal experience. So I'd known, this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe. So I'd known Rinpoche maybe by then, I don't know, whatever, 10 years, something like that, right? And, he'd seen me in retreats. We'd seen each other face to face and talked. I'd written him letters and he had answered them back. So, I mean, he kind of knew, he has thousands of students, true, but he kind of knew who I was, right? And, so, and when and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I think you all can understand this, is that, when you're kind of young in the Dharma or something like this, there's a pride that arises. Oh yeah, I know Rinpoche. I must be some highfalutin, but I must have serious, whatever, right? You know what I mean. I know Rinpoche. I kind of like, I know Bill Gates. I just pal around with him. I know him by first name. I just call him Bill. That kind of thing, right? So there's this pride that, right, but I hadn't talked, it's just in my mind, right? So you know what he would do? Like a lot of times if I'm standing in line, like, receive, like the receiving line where you offer katas, so he's accepting the katas from everybody. And then he would stop, right? And I'm standing there with my kata like this. And a couple of times he did this. And one time in a retreat in public, he did this too. He would look at me and he goes, "Are you from India?" Right? It's like he's poking my pride, right? I mean, he knows what he's doing, right? To me, he appears like this guy is just, he knows who I am. He's just trying to be mean to me, right? That's one way to look at it, right? That Rinpoche is just, or he's just forgetful. How can he be a Buddha if he just can't even remember that, I wrote him letters 6 months ago, or I talked to him, blah, 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 right? So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it could be that, my pride is kind of, I think he's right, like that, right? So it's not a very good example, but you can see kind of where I'm getting at, right? And there are lots of things like this that happen, his students will tell you. And they feign anger, for example. They say they manifest anger, right, to teach us a lesson, right? Not because they're truly angry at us, because if you believe that they have so much compassion that they always want to be of benefit, they're never disappointed. Well, they do say that Buddhists can be disappointed in us, but in a constructive way. They're not disappointed like, okay, I just give up on this guy. He could just go to hell, right? But they continue to guide us, right? Because one of the qualities of a qualified teacher is compassion and patience, right? You can repeat that over and over again, right? The same instruction because the guy doesn't seem to get it. So they manifest anger out of compassion, because that's what it takes, to get through to this guy. So that's kind of like, so yeah, he may appear to have faults. It could be that the faults appear because our mind is incorrect, or it could be that there is no fault at all. He is appearing to have fault for a particular reason, right? So, you gotta, it's kind of like, what do you call it? What's the word when someone is actively lying to you to make you just confused, like something happened, but then they say, no, that never happened, gaslighting, right? It's almost like it's weird, oh yeah, he could have faults, but then maybe he doesn't have faults at all, so it's kind of like, okay, figure that one out, right? But it's true, in all of his students, including me, will tell you, each of us has some kind of experience of him having been, having done something to us, and he said that something even more embarrassing to be in public, which I won't go into at the moment. So, I could have just gotten up and left and said, okay, I'm not ever coming back again, but that's not constructive, because he's given me all this advice that's worked. I mean, I know from absolutely perfectly that it has worked, right? So, you just have to kind of accept that, this is where faith comes in, right? I mean, if you followed someone long enough and things have made a change, things have worked the way they said, then it becomes easy, to see them as Buddhas, because you see their compassion in action. And there are many stories, and I have them also, like his compassionate action and so forth and so on. And many of us can tell you those stories. I won't go into them now. So you can see his compassion in action. You can see his patience in action. You can see how, here's an example, like his compassion in action, right? So, his retreats, for example, his students now regulate his time a lot more. His attendants now regulate his time a lot more, like when he teaches and things like that. But it used to be that, I mean, he could teach forever. I mean, he's taught for 10, 11, like hours without a pee break. I mean, all of us are falling asleep and we're just dead to the world. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. He's still going, right? That was when, before he had a stroke and all this stuff. But then in more recent retreats, he would teach us till midnight, let's say, right? And then we get up at 5 in the morning every day to take our precepts and do the Guru Puja and all that stuff, which takes a couple of hours. And so, breakfast is at 8 o'clock and all of us are bleary-eyed and all this stuff. And Rinpoche doesn't have to show up. He shows, he will show up sometime at 5:30 in the morning, even though he's only gotten, he went to bed at noon. Well, he did actually. That's the other thing, right? He finished at midnight, but then he's taking calls from the Far East, right? Because that's their day, right? So he's, taking calls from them about advice and writing letters and he's doing his practice, figuring out what, blah, blah, So he doesn't sleep really. I mean, he's just in constant, he manifests sleep, but it's constant, he kind of like, always doing his practice. So he shows up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because there's more blessings and there are more benefit to those who see him as a guru to have him on the throne as we're doing the Guru Puja, right? I mean, he doesn't need to show up for him. It's not like he's collecting any more merit, right? It's really, he's doing it only because we can collect merit from our side. Because those of us in that Gompa in the hall see him as a guru. He knows that. And he knows that if he's there while we're doing the Guru Puja, we don't have to visualize we can see him as a Buddha. It's just so much more benefit for his students, for the students, right? That's the only reason he does it. And there are many other things like that, that he does. So when you see those kind of things and you have experience, then whether or not he's poking whether or not he's being mean to me or showing anger at me no longer becomes an issue. We don't see them as faults anymore, Now, I'm not talking about now, I mean, you do also hear about teachers. Fortunately, we don't have them in the FPMT. Teachers who have, let's say, kind of not kept their ethical vows, right? Let's leave it, just leave it there, and you can, what I'm talking about. So that's a difficult, and we can talk about it if we need to later on. But that's a difficult, how do you know that something is something is correct and something isn't, right? And that's a heavy question, and we can talk about that. But for the most part, if the teacher is of benefit to our mind stream, then just follow their advice, and sooner or later we'll figure out whether they're a qualified teacher or not, and whether or not they can be seen as a guru, as a Buddha or not. So yeah, so it's important that we reflect on this, this whole, not just the guru as a Buddha, but the guru, what is a qualified teacher, and with the qualities of a qualified teacher, and whether, and how we can be, of service as a disciple, and then why and how to see the guru as a Buddha, because, and especially in meditation and reflection, right? So that's why, because the more we're able to do these things, the more blessings we have and the more progress we make. And this is why, if you look at the Lamrim, right? I have the Lamrim, I have the Liberation in Our Hands, the different version, but it's just, like this, here's a volume number 1, volume number 2, and then there's volume number 3, right? So here's volume 1, it hasn't even, it's basically starting guru devotion, right? And then I'm looking at beginning of volume 2, where it talks about qualities of a teacher, right? Just basically like took an entire, like a third of the Lam Rim is about the teacher, guru devotion, right? And there's a reason for that. And that's why it appears first. Now remember, the audience of the Lam Rim were Tibetan monks, right? They've already had 10, 15 years of monastery. So by then, guru devotion is not a problem for them. And being the first in the hardest topic for us Westerners, being the first for them is not a big deal for them, right? So that's why, for us, yeah, this is a big deal. Why is it first in the, you have to conquer this first, to get to the other ones? Well, the audience with a different one, right? But it doesn't make it any, it's difficult, but doesn't make it any less important, so the more effort we can make to understand it, without getting hung up on necessarily like, the teacher and the Buddha and, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. The more the more we can do this, reflect on this with kind of an easy mind, if you will, right? The easier the progress becomes. And I think that's where an impartial student, one of the qualities of a student is an impartial student, right? One prejudice, not prejudiced one way or the other, right? So someone who is, willing to follow where the facts lead them in a way, kind of like, like that. So anyway, so any other questions about that particular section about the qualities of a teacher, qualities of a disciple, the Buddha and the Guru, and so forth and so on? Have you exhausted all your questions? Everything's clear now? Okay, must be clear. I'm thinking, so the next section on what to meditate on is his kindness. So one of the things they always, one of the things my teachers have always said, I don't know if Rinpoche said this or not. He has said it, but not in these exact words. But the thing to do, is every morning to think about our teachers, their qualities, and their kindness. And if you look at the Guru Puja, that we do twice a month, or twice a month, and the Lam Rim section that from the Guru Yoga that Geshe-la is teaching on Sunday mornings. I'm not sure he's teaching on this particular part of the topic, the part of that Lam Rim that this topic is about, the Guru devotion. I'm not sure if he's doing that or not. But if that section has all this about supplicating to the Guru and his kindness, how kind he is. And there's a reason for that. It's because, again, it's that sense of gratitude, that again opens our hearts, for the blessings to arise, for us to be able to receive the blessings, And the more we follow, our teachers, whoever they are, even if we don't see them as a guru, the more we follow them and follow their advice, and we see that their advice makes a difference, the more gratitude, the more we will see their kindnesses, So that's what, so to think about our teachers, their qualities and their kindness, so that's one of the things. And one of the short practices that is a requirement for all, like if you get any kind of tantra, highest yoga tantra initiation, it's called 6-session guru yoga, and that's basically what it's about. It's all about the guru. It doesn't matter what initiation take. You can take Chandra, you can take, Hiruka, you can take Chakrasambar, you can take all these deities, right? But the actual 6-session, the short practice, the 6-session guru yoga practice, which is the minimum one has to do for highest yoga tantra, if you have that commitment, you have to keep. There's only 1 or 2 lines about the deity. Everything else is about the guru. Because if you see the guru as a Buddha, then the deity automatically comes. That's the logic, kind of. I think let's stop here for today. I think that there's a lot to absorb. Let's not go to the next section. But what I would request you to do is really just take a look at those sections in the Lamrim. There's some in the readings as well. And really think, really spend, 5 minutes in the morning every day or whenever, and just spend some time with it, just cogitate on it, and see what you think, see what comes up, see what you think, and you don't have to, if it turns out that you don't have to agree with it. I mean, just see what comes up, and either not accepting or not rejecting it. Just cogitate on it, and you can just read a page or 2 every day. That's all it takes. We're not talking about, reading whole sections. Just take 1 or 2 points and just think about it, and use your personal experience, like in the ordinary world, right? So for example, that's why they use the doctor and the medicine and the skilled physician, those analogies, right? So you can kind of use the same kind of experience, experience that we have in the ordinary world, and see how things we accept as normal in the ordinary world can also be extended, to the spirit, to the spiritual practice. And that's one way to think about these things. I mean, for example, if we have, I don't know, some very a disease, serious disease, let's say, I don't know, cancer or something, right? And we go to a doctor, right? And we go to a doctor because somebody's, he's he's like the most foremost research, whatever. He has the latest, he knows the latest research and on this thing, and he's the one who can help you, right? And we go to him, and if he says A, B, C, D, and E, we pretty much will do A, B, C, D, and E. I mean, we may have 1 or 2 qualms here and there. Maybe we'll get a second opinion to see if it concords with current research, let's say, right? But we will probably do A, B, C, D, and E. And we will do it with a lot of faith. We will keep our regimen of medicines. We will go to all our chemos. We will do all this stuff, right? We'll take so much pain for our chemo, right? Feel sick, hair loss, all that stuff. And then, so that's a lot of faith that we put in an ordinary world, right? We do that with our parents when we were young, so I think, that's one way to kind of meditate on these things, reflect on these things, and see how things we do that we take for granted in the ordinary world can also, there's similar in the spiritual practice, So anyway, if we don't have any other questions, let's finish. And let me bring up the prayers. Where's my Acrobat? Oh, I don't know. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so okay. So due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha. But look at the, see those words, Guru Buddha? And lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. For Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunat's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayer, honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Oh, wrong direction. His Holiness, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparable kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And finally, Tenzin Hot, Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us in intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please, please live long. And finally, Geshe-la, beloved teacher, leading your students toward wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment the steps of the graduated path, you are the unequaled guide. Please live a long and stable life. Well, thank you for coming. We will see each other next week. Stay well.